The U.S. hits a new vaccine milestone, how Americans view the state of the country after Joe Biden's first 100 days, and Elon Musk wants your ideas as he prepares to host SNL. Monday Need to Know, let's go. Good morning, this is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Monday, May 3rd. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo.
Hey, I was going to say, hey, Monday. Hey, Jill.
I thought you were going to say, like, hey, my love or something. And I'm like, what? Where are we taking this, Carlo? What is going on?
No, sorry. You know how it is on these Monday mornings. How was your weekend? You guys do anything?
We did not much. I mean, just hang at the house casually. Which means basically nothing.
Well, we had a very busy weekend. It was Becky's baby shower.
So wonderful.
We were running around. Yeah, so it's getting closer. That baby is still marinating, but it's getting closer.
All right, Carlo, let's get to some news here. More than 100 million Americans are now fully vaccinated against the coronavirus, or close to 40% of the adult population. The 7-day average of daily cases is below 50,000 and falling. Hospitalizations and deaths are also on the way down. And if you want a sense of how things are starting to inch back to normal, Los Angeles just put on an in-person concert last night where Prince Harry appeared on stage to promote vaccines. The biggest wild card right now is still India, where the outbreak is so out of control that officials are worried about the possibility of variants that will mutate to evade vaccines. India is still hitting new daily records in terms of new cases, and no sign that that curve is starting to flatten.
No, there isn't. It's still amazingly going up. Back to Los Angeles, one of the reasons they were able to put on that concert last night, 0 deaths yesterday. They recorded 0 COVID deaths yesterday. That's incredible. But India, yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why the White House said over the weekend that they're going to start banning American non-citizens in India from entering the U.S. as of tomorrow. Now, Australia, actually going one step further. They're making it illegal for their own citizens and residents in India to come home. That's pretty incredible, threatening 5-year prison sentences for Australians in India who want to come back. But yeah, I mean, that country just a straight up humanitarian catastrophe. A lot of blame hangs on Narendra Modi's government, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to talk about that once they try and get some of the actual crisis under control.
Why haven't we, Carlo, I just want to stick with India. Why have we not banned travel sooner? Like, what are we waiting for? Why is that takes effect tomorrow? It's a little bit upsetting, and I don't, because we're not. This is nothing against India. This would be any single country that was having a crisis like this. These, as we've been talking about, the mutations are much harder on kids. Right. What are we doing as a country that we're still just saying that, you could freely travel? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but we've come so far in this country to get this under control. Let's send help. Let's do whatever we can to get it under control in India. But I kind of understand what Australia is doing here. I told you about my daughter's teacher who came back to the United States after traveling abroad, and there was nothing. She didn't have to do a test. She filled out a form that she submitted to nobody. It's just we've learned 0 lessons, and it's just incredibly frustrating.
Yep. No, I agree, and I always think it's weird when they're like, we're gonna do this, but we're not gonna do it till this day. It's like, okay, well, if this is a crisis,
open the floodgates, then everyone's gonna come. It's just insane. There's no checking on any, but we have no. Right. There's no one manning anything here. You could come back, you don't have to quarantine, or it's just kind of Scouts honor. And we've just learned that when it comes to Scouts honor, no one cares. And very few people actually follow it. It's so, I don't get it.
I'm with you, and I think the fact of the matter is it probably doesn't matter, because I think these variants are either here or coming here. And I just think that as we learned when Trump banned travel from China, a day late and a dollar short last year, it didn't really matter, right? It does, you can't stop this stuff in a globalized world. But just briefly back in the United States, where we are really, it's incredible, the vaccine, just how vaccines are making a difference. Look at San Francisco. just a great example of how higher vaccine uptake equals lower cases. 71% of that city is partially vaccinated. They're recording now 20 new cases a day. So I think that we are, putting India aside, I just think that we're going to start to see cases really fall through the floor once we hit 45 to 50% of the population fully vaccinated. That's what happened in India, in Israel. So we're probably going to get there by Memorial Day, it looks like, at the current rate, even though that rate is starting to falter a little bit, as most people who have gotten their vaccines, most people who wanted them, have gotten them now.
Talking about getting back to some semblance of normalcy, pay attention to what happens in New York City today. Mayor Bill de Blasio has told the city's 80,000 municipal employees that they must come back to their offices after about a quarter of them have spent more than a year working from home. It's going to be one of the big tests, the first big tests of bringing back a big workforce to the office. Many not happy with the decision, saying they've been left in the dark about what safety protocols are in place. Public and private employers are struggling with if, when, and how to bring their workers back to the office as this pandemic recedes.
In cities like New York and elsewhere, retailers, storefronts begging for the return of office workers. But the polling that's out there just shows that the vast majority of them, us really, don't ever want to go back full time. It's pretty remarkable. Something like 70-80% of people who work in the office say they don't have any desire to go back to their 9-to-5s full time. So this is going to be the big question this summer and fall, and the repercussions are really, really big, especially in places like New York City and other places that really depend on these big, workforces coming in, basically doubling the population of a city during the workday, right? Just think about it, like in terms of public transportation, all the businesses that depend on office workers, the delis, the hot dog guy, the coffee shop. Anecdotally, from what I've been hearing, a lot of companies just really not incentivizing their employees to come back. I still think companies should be mandating that employees get vaccinated if they want to come back to work. There's a bunch of reasons why there haven't been a lot of companies that have been doing that, but there have been some that have been trying to at least incentivize people to come back, giving out cash, prizes, entering vaccinated employees into raffles every week. I've heard about one media company that's doing that, catering lunches. But this is the question now, right? How are you going to get these people back into the office?
I tend to think it's going to be a tipping point where if you get enough people to come back, I think then everybody wants to come back, or at least most people, like that fear of missing out. But safety comes first. We've opened our offices back up for people who want to come back. Not that many people are here. And I can tell you there's one producer who sits down here now who comes in. She just said, work from home was not for me. And I was really hesitant because I, of course, have to sit here without a mask on. And it's kind of just this open office layout. And once she told me that she's fully vaccinated, it was almost like this wall of tension dropped because we were both of us were like, okay, we're both fully vaccinated. She's still wearing a mask when she sits at her desk. I obviously can't. But now it's wonderful. I mean, it's great. She's here, we chit chat. It feels not fully normal because obviously the rest of the office is empty. But I think the safer that offices can be, I think the better. And I think then it will encourage more people to come back. And then again, I think the more people that come back, the more people that will want to.
I think that you're absolutely right about that. I think right now it's just, you have to get to that tipping point because eventually, like you said, people are going to be like, well, I don't want to be the one guy who's on the Zoom meeting when everybody else is, at the office chit-chatting and BSing and politicking and whatnot. But to your point about just feeling a little bit, I mean, we had this baby shower that we had at my parents' house this weekend. Everybody there was fully vaccinated. It was amazing. I mean, we were hugging, shaking hands, it was like another time. It felt so great. It was like, I can't even put it into words how and I mean, we're talking about a baby shower. I couldn't imagine the old Carlo would have been like, this does not sound like a way that you want to spend your weekend. But I was like, this is great. These are people I haven't seen in a while. So yeah, vaccines are the answer, man. I don't know how many times we got to say it.
I also think that no matter how you slice it, and everyone, look, I was a big proponent of remote work. It was wonderful. I got to sleep an extra hour in the morning, which when you're getting up at 4:30, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it means the difference between basically me being like a zombie for the rest of my day or not.
Right.
But I think in-person work you are more productive. I think there are very few jobs where you can sit home by yourself and do things over Zoom. It is better to be in person with people, to collaborate, to talk, to grab a coffee, to have friendships beyond just work. I mean, I do think that something suffers by not collaborating in person. Does it have to be 5 days a week, 9 to 5? Right. I'm not saying that, but there is something about a human connection and just, I don't know, collaborating and being creative and even being shamed into working, right? Like, if no one knows what schedule you're taking when you're home. Right. You'd like to think that everyone's working to their full level, but I don't know if they are.
They're definitely not. I mean, I'm not. I'll admit it right now. I'm not nearly as productive as I was working from the office. It's just harder to do that. The problem that I have is every CEO in America knows that, but what are they doing to get people back to the office, right? What are they doing to get us back to a safe environment? And I mean, a lot of companies are just saying like, oh, you don't have to. It's illegal to mandate vaccines. Well, no, you can mandate that your office has to be vaccinated. I mean, these are companies that mandate drug tests. You're telling me you can't mandate that somebody gets a vaccine? Please.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about what's going on at the border right now. At least 3 people are dead, more than 20 in the hospital after a boat capsized off the coast of San Diego. Officials say they believe the vessel was smuggling migrants into the country illegally. President Biden said in an interview with NBC this weekend that, quote, "We have now gotten control of the migrant surge at the border," and blames the Trump administration for the crisis.
It is true. He is right in that the number of migrant children in Border Patrol custody down significantly, more than 80% in the last month. That's mostly because they've just started transferring a lot of those kids from Border Patrol facilities, aka the cages, to HHS facilities, which are more humanely run. They're also sending a lot of these kids to live with relatives in the country, so they're getting those numbers down, which is good. The number of people arriving at the border this spring, I think we've mentioned this numerous times at this point, but it's just been much higher than in past years for a host of reasons. One of those reasons being that there's a new administration that a lot of these migrants believe is going to be more hospitable to them than the past. But it also is interesting to note that neither President Biden nor Kamala Harris, who is theoretically in charge of the border situation, have visited the border at this point.
Americans more optimistic about the direction of the country than they've been in 15 years. The new ABC News Ipsos poll has 64% of respondents saying that they feel good about the coming year. The last time that number came close to the 2/3 mark was in December of 2006.
2007 was a good year. That was the year the iPhone came out. What else happened then? I feel like other stuff. I feel like 2007 was a big year, but I don't remember now
it was like the year before the financial crisis.
Yeah, it was really, exactly. It was like the last.
It was the last good year.
Yeah, exactly. But just speaking about polling here for a minute, President Biden's first 100 days obviously now in the can as of last Thursday. His approval rating, looking at 538's poll of polls, 54%. So that puts him higher than Trump was at the same time period, lower than Obama, about the same level as George Bush. I just think that the situation with polling is really fascinating. You would expect that Biden's numbers would be in the mid-60s because they typically mirror that question of how do you feel about the state of the country. But they aren't, which is interesting to me. I honestly think that it's possible we may never see a president in this country hit 60% approval again. We're just too polarized, right? No matter who the president is, I think there's just 40% of the country will not support them under any circumstance. And the first time you really saw evidence of that was 10 years ago this week. At least that was the first time that I really noticed it, because they did a bunch of polls right after the Osama bin Laden raid, which was 10 years ago, 2 days on Saturday. Right? Yeah, May 1st, 2011.
Yes.
And those, I remember thinking like those polls are going to show Obama's approval going up to 75%. And it didn't happen. He got a couple point bump and then it faded immediately. I thought that was really fascinating, just given what an accomplishment the bin Laden killing was.
Some business news here. Verizon expected to announce today that it's selling AOL and Yahoo to the private equity firm Apollo Global Management for something in the neighborhood of $5 billion. Verizon bought the remnants of AOL in 2015 and then Yahoo in 2017 for $9 billion total and combined them into Verizon Media Group. Verizon basically hinted it was getting out of this business when it sold off HuffPost, which was part of AOL, to BuzzFeed a few months ago.
Yeah, I think this sale, which I'm sure they will announce before the bell today, pretty much signals that Verizon's cleaning its hands of the digital media space, which is now, you can't make money in this business really unless you're Facebook or Google. They just own it. They just own it outright. And there was a time, I mean, if you're one of our younger listeners, you may not remember this. 20 years ago, AOL and Yahoo were the internet. Right, that was the internet. You log on to AOL.com or Yahoo.com, like that was how you interfaced with the World Wide Web. It's just fascinating to think about. It makes me feel old. But I mean, it feels like these properties are just being bought and sold every few years, which is sad for the people who work for them because there's really good journalists working at both AOL and Yahoo.
Carlo, Elon Musk spent the weekend overseeing the successful nighttime landing of NASA astronauts in a SpaceX capsule, and then also soliciting some ideas on Twitter for SNL sketches ahead of his hosting debut next weekend. Some of the show's cast members not too thrilled about Musk hosting the show, judging at least by their snarky social media comments. Bowen Yang, Chris Redd, Aidy Bryant, all posting veiled criticism of Musk since he was announced as the host.
So lame. So lame. What are they whining about? That he's like a billionaire? Who cares? SNL... God, Saturday Night Live, it was once this like super subversive, really brilliant showcase, like comedic showcase, political showcase. It's just a bunch of babies complaining that they don't like that Elon Musk is a billionaire or whatever his politics are. It's incredible. It's incredible. Don't they? I mean, people are going to watch this episode. Don't they want that?
It'll be the highest rated.
No question.
I guess that the one thing that I will agree with is that Elon Musk had tweeted something like, let's see how much of the show is actually going to be live. And then Bowen Yang replied, what does that even mean? Right? So it's like if we invited a guest on our podcast and they kind of tweeted out before they came on, let's see who really writes their stuff. Or something stupid. We'd be like, screw you, man. Why are you coming on?
Yeah.
However, besides for that, I don't really get it because, I mean, that's sort of the gig, right? I mean, you don't have to like everybody that you work with, and what kind of litmus test are they sending, for hosts? Alec Baldwin is kind of controversial. He
basically lives there.
He played Trump for however many seasons. So I don't know. I don't get it. It's your job, right? But I guess younger people don't feel that way. They feel like everybody needs to agree with them politically and socially.
I know it's one of the big problems in this country, but Elon Musk. I mean, he doesn't do himself any favors because he can be such an obnoxious idiot and troll on social media. But at the same time, he also is able to land 2 rockets on a launch pad at the same time. So that's a big deal.
Pivot Podcast, friend of the pod who doesn't know he's a friend of the pod, Scott Galloway. I thought he made this great point when he was talking about Elon Musk. And look, I think he's like whatever, an A word, a D word, whatever, but he was saying, Elon Musk runs Tesla, obviously, and SpaceX. Think about the difference between him and Mary Barra, Mary Barra is the chair of GM. So if she wanted to send a tweet out, do you know how many layers of people would be looking at that? You'd have PR people, you'd have whoever it is would say, what kind of message is this sending about GM? Every word would be looked at carefully. Elon Musk basically just and gets up and is like, I'm gonna send this tweet out. He doesn't even think about it. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but it just speaks to, I guess, the no bureaucracy going on over there.
Well, it's also the difference between Trump and Biden's Twitter. Biden's Twitter will absolutely put you to sleep. It's just so rote and boring. And you may like that. You may say, good, I don't want a president spending time tweeting. But it's so fascinating how different it was from Trump, who would literally tweet anything and everything that went through his head, right?
And finally, Carlo, could your wish be coming true? Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck were spotted hanging out in Los Angeles over the weekend amid her split with Alex Rodriguez, Bennifer 2.0.
Oh, I saw this. I was just like, nature is healing. A bunch of people tweeted this at me. They were like, Carlo, you're onto something here. And I saw somebody tweet that they called Ben Affleck a great rebound, saying basically like there's not too much going on upstairs, but he's available. He's
Ben
handsome.
Affleck?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. I thought that was kind of funny.
He's so smart. That's the consensus on him. He wrote Good Will Hunting. I'm not saying,
Well, no. And he directed two of my favorite movies, Argo and The Town.
Yeah, well, if he's not smart, I'm not saying, he obviously has his issues, but then what are we? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I just hope they get back together. I want that celebrity couple big time. That's what we deserve in America in our post-COVID world.
Good for her, J-Lo, for staying friends with her exes. Apparently, one of our bookers loves J-Lo, and I messaged her. I'm like, "What do you think? Do you have any info?" And she's like, "I think they're just friends." So yeah. I don't know.
Famous people, just like us.
Okay, that's what you need to know for Monday, May 3rd.
Have a good one, guys.